like what's going to happen with these TRTs, and I'm getting hit with like tons of questions.
So I know you've been already approached about it, so I want to hear your take on it.
Well, yeah, I'll give you the basics. First off, it's still a relatively new thing. We have probably about 900 competitors every year that fight, under us. So about 900 people, 905 pro fighters. Boxing makes most of them, but there's a big chunk is MMA and a small chunk, but still important, is kickboxers. So about 900, about 450 fights, 900 competitors total. And this year, it looks like at least through April, because that's kind of we know who's fighting through April. We got 0 guys competing with TRT exemptions. Last year we had 3, so you're talking 1 out of 300 people. So this year about 0 out of 300. Last year about 1 out of 300. And then in 2007, 2008, 2009, and 2010, each of those years there was 1 person. So 1 out of 900. So 5 people total. One guy fought twice. He fought TRT twice. So you had actually I think 1 year, 2008, there was nobody. So 2007, 1 person, 2008, nobody, 2009, 10, and 11, there was 1 person each year. And last year there was 3 people, and then this year, at least for the first 2 to 4 months, there was nobody. So it's very rare. 6 people ever total, and like I said, 1 guy twice. So only 7 fights, I think, or 8 fights, or no, 1 guy 3 times. So, but anyway, yeah, 6 people total out of ever in the history.
Okay.
And currently 2 of those people, 1 guy retired. He actually got off of it, and then retired. The other guy still fights, but he's off of it. So there's actually only 4 fighters right now who are still competing that have fought here in the past under TRT exemption, who are still fighting and have a TRT exemption. Dan Henderson, Jail Sonnen, Frank Mir, and Forrest Griffin, and that's it. So out of, like I said, those the last 5 years, you're talking 4,500 people stepping in the ring. Times someone stepped in the ring, and a handful of those times you had a TRT exemption. So it's very infrequent. I know people are trying to make it sound like it's happening left and right or whatever. And
right, that's why some people were asking me, why is there so many TUEs for the TRT?
Yeah. Yeah, and then there's other states where people have fought, or other jurisdictions where other fighters have fought under TRT exemptions. I know Nate Marquardt and Vitor Belfort had fought elsewhere, apparently, with TRT exemptions, though apparently Nate's not on it anymore. And then there might be 1 or 2 others, but I think total, every jurisdiction in the world, at least reported, on all 3 sports, boxing, kickboxing, MMA, you're probably talking 10 people, and you're talking, probably hundreds of thousands of fighters. I think in the Olympics, someone told me the last Olympics, just one Olympics in 2012, that there was apparently at least 24 people who had TRT exemptions from WADA. Those were only the reported ones. Maybe there would have been more. I don't know. So it's a weird thing. It's one of these things I would once refer to as a new Viagra.
Yeah.
Pretty much anybody who's probably past 30 who goes to a doctor who's looking to make a little extra money is going to get this as a suggestion. Just if you went to your doctor and said, hey, I've had a little trouble in the bedroom, he or she's going to say, hey, I can get you a Viagra, for X amount of dollars. You go to your doctor and you're past 30 and you say, hey, I'm feeling a little sluggish. The doctor, especially if he or she's not very referable, is going to say, hey, look, I'll just write you a script for TRT. And you're going to see more and more of that, not just athletes, but school teachers or anybody, people like you. There's just going to be a situation where there's money to be made on this because everybody wants to feel young and look young. And I have a feeling the general population, look how many people had prescriptions for testosterone, 5 years ago compared to today. I bet you it's probably 100-fold of an increase. But yeah, in MMA, boxing and kickboxing combined, like I said, you had 3 people. Nobody this year. 3 people last year, and then 1 person each of the previous few years, and that's it. So
okay.
Now that being said, I'm not trying to downplay it. It's a very serious issue. Obviously PEDs as a whole are very serious, but TUEs, therapeutic use exemptions, are also a very serious issue. But yeah, the amount that we've given out, or if you even count all the commissions have given out, pale in comparison to even one Olympic under WADA.
Okay, but why do you guys don't do testing for EPO, HGH, or synthetic testosterone using the CIR method?
Yeah, we actually do the CIR method when called for. The main reason why it can't be a matter of course is we test everybody. So if we had done a CIR on everybody, we'd be bankrupt within a couple months. It's just too expensive. But hopefully one day, as time goes on, as technology gets better, things get cheaper. I mean, you remember the days when a pocket calculator would have cost you probably $400. Now you get them for free sometimes, and you open a new bank account or something. So, hopefully the price will come way down, and hopefully it could be part of the normal testing. We test right now. The test for all the for anabolic agents, diuretics, and masking agents. That includes a TE ratio test. Is a little south of $200 if you had the per fighter. So if you added I think the CIR test by itself is probably over $400. So you're gonna triple the cost by just adding and just for a test for just one thing, synthetic testosterone. So that's the answer there. But we do have situations where if the TE ratio indicates use of synthetic testosterone and the fighter wants to challenge that test, we say, fine, you can challenge it, but we're going to use CIR testing for your B sample, and you're going to pay for it. If you get found guilty, get found innocent, we'll reimburse you, and if not, you're going to have to pay for that, and as part of the cost of your fine, in addition to your fine for using a PED. So, as far as the HGH goes, my understanding, talking to experts in the field and reading stuff, is that test has not yet been perfected. It hasn't been peer-reviewed. There's still a ton of false positives. They've caught very few people with the HGH test, very few people. But I think once that gets into place, once it gets perfected, I think they will perfect it. That and the EPO test, the EPO test actually is very good, but there's similar issues there. That costs, I think, even more so. Those two tests would cost even more so than the CIR test. So, if I was testing two people a card, I could probably do it, but I want to test all 20 people a card.
Right.
So the main thing is cost on that. So it's hopeful they'll bring it down and maybe make it standard in the basic, especially with the CIR test, make it part of the standard anabolic agent test would be great.
Okay, and the reason why I was speaking of the T&E ratio is because we recently had an incident with Mickey Bay in his fight. Oh yeah. And we saw ratios where I think you guys have a 6-to-1. You guys would allow in Nevada.
Well, it's not an allowance. Nothing is allowed. No synthetic testosterone is allowed. But 6-to-1 is kind of the litmus test. WADA for most of their existence had a 6-to-1 ratio. And the reason for this is, even though the average male is 1-to-1, about 1% of the population is between 5 and 6-to-1, and about 5% of the population is between 4 and 6-to-1. So they don't want to. I think the worst thing to do is to convict somebody and they're totally innocent. So they used the 6-to-1 ratio, but then they moved to 4-to-1 a few years ago. But still, for the majority of their existence, they had a 6-to-1 ratio. They just figured the risk of a false positive. They're willing to take the chance at the athlete's expense. And there's been some horror stories about how WADA have treated some of the guys they found positive for certain things. And we don't want to be there, So we stuck to their ratio of a 6-to-1 ratio. But again, that doesn't mean it's allowable. You could have a 1-to-1 ratio, but if you're using synthetic testosterone, you're violating the rules.
Okay, because his was 30-to-1. Now
at least
30-to-1. Like I don't know if there's a fine coming or what. Like, how are you guys?
Well, I filed a complaint against him, and so he'll have his hearing probably sometime in March. He's on the agenda for this Thursday, but that's just for a temporary suspension pending the full hearing. It's not any kind of finding on the merits, but March or April. But I talked to someone from his camp the other day, and they said he thinks he'll be ready in March. They have him on the agenda, and so he'll have the opportunity. These are just allegations right now.
Right.
He'll have the opportunity to explain his side of it, and then the 5 commissioners will make their decision. In the past, It's usually for a first offense. It's a 9-month suspension from the date of the test, and some sort of fine, 25 to 50% fine, somewhere in there. And that's what he's looking at if they find him liable, find him guilty, and it would also be changing to a no decision.
Okay, well, I want to thank you, Keith, for explaining everything. And the Boxing Socialist, if we ever need anything, any questions asked before I go ahead and make any statements, that's why I said, let me talk to Keith, and he'll explain it a lot better than I can.
Yeah, do whatever I can, and I appreciate that. Part of my job, and I see it as a major part of my job, is getting the information out there. And so, thankfully, for media outlets like your own, it helps educate everybody, but it also gets good exposure for the athletes. That gets them better known to the outside world, which can only be good for them.
Yes, and I'm not an expert in the field, so I want to talk to someone who has the definition of every single thing that they keep throwing at me. I can have someone answer it with clarity. So I thank you again for that, and we'll stay in contact with you.
You got it. Thank you.
Thank you. So there you go. All your answers to your questions about the TE ratio, TUEs for TRTs, CIR methods, and anything, any other abbreviations, you just got it answered right here. Carcino Boxing Socialist, we out. Peace.